All right, one more example today. We've been verifying identities. Remember, we only work with one side at a time. We're trying to turn usually the more complicated looking side into a simpler side. So really we're simplifying expressions in a very real sense. And so as I look at this one, notice the left side's got a lot going on. The other side's just a 1. So that's very, very simple. So clearly we're going to work with the left side. So here's one strategy. Maybe let's try to factor. And again, there's more than one way you can tackle a lot of these. So the way I'm showing's not the only way. It may not even be the best way. And so maybe let's look at this though. What if I do parentheses around those first two expressions? The reason I'm doing that is I see they both have a secant squared. So I just see something I could factor. Now this one might not be as obvious. Let me just kind of scooch that negative over with the sign and draw parentheses around that. So what if I factor by grouping? Well, out of this first term, I could pull out 2 secant squared x. What would that leave? Well, I'd have a 1 minus sine squared x. Okay. And then out of this, well, the only thing I could factor out is a negative sign. So I'm going to do a minus there. And that would leave sine squared x plus cosine squared x. Now be real careful with those signs. Notice that minus, these parentheses were something I created, so that minus wouldn't be distributed. I just scooted that over with the sine squared, wrote a plus, and now I factored that negative out. Well, let's see what would happen. How would that help us? So 2 secant squared. 2 secant squared. Well, let me maybe rewrite that. Isn't that the same as 2 times 1 over cosine squared? Secant squared is 1 over cosine squared times 1 minus sine squared. We've already seen an example like that. If I use a Pythagorean identity, I could rewrite that as cosine squared. Remember, sine squared plus cosine squared is 1, so I could rewrite that. Notice, in fact, let's just do this. Notice what's going to happen. Hey, those are going to divide out, aren't they? So this is just a 2. Minus, well, what's sine squared plus cosine squared? We just said it. If we use a Pythagorean identity, that's 1. So look what happened really quickly. 2 minus 1, and of course, that is 1. Hey, we simplified that thing. It looked intimidating, but we substituted, applied some identities, factored at the start, right? Not too bad. Not too bad. So, as you go try these, just try them. Smile. Don't be intimidated. Keep your trig sheet close. Use your algebra skills. Use those fundamental identities. Try to clean things up.